10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Don Wibier, and together I am together with Gregory. Gregory, how are you?
I'm doing well, Don, but hopefully you're doing better too since you were out for a few weeks there, huh?
Well, yeah, as you can hear, I'm trying to do the Barry White voice, but as you can hear, it doesn't work. Yeah, I had some issues with my voice. It was gone for like 2 weeks. My kids don't even listen to me anymore. But yeah, I'm slowly getting back now, and I hope that from next week we can listen to my normal voice. But yeah, what can I say? These things happen every now and then. But yeah, today you're gonna be doing most of the talk. I can assure you that. Um, you're gonna show us something with dashboards and Angular. Am I right?
Yep, we're gonna be diving in back into some dashboarding, and we're gonna be using some DevExtreme charts with Angular today.
Cool. Well, I mean, the charts are always something really nice to look at. So, yeah, I'd say take it away.
Okay, so today what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start off by creating a new Angular app, and I'm gonna use the Angular CLI to do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and type in ng new, and I'm gonna call this Angular dash chart dash demo. And I'm just going to go with the defaults. I'm going to use regular CSS, and I'm not going to be using server-side rendering today. And we'll just let it install all of these packages. This will take a few seconds here. And what we're going to do as well is just cd into that new folder that was created for me. And we can see the contents of that folder. We, of course, create our standard Angular app. And I'm going to go ahead and install our DevExtreme packages here. And of course, I'm still using the current latest version. However, we have our 24.1, our next release is in preview. So if
Yep,
anyone's interested in checking that out, they can go ahead and do that as well.
I can assure you I have already been testing it. And I have to say, I got really excited about it.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump over to this other terminal pane. And before I start this app, I'm going to go ahead and open up the package.json file, and I need to once again add this host flag so that it can be seen on my local machine here because I am doing it off on a separate server. So after I do that, I'm just going to hit npm run start, and it should build this app for us. And I have our sample Angular app here. And so this is just what we'd expect with any Angular app, of course. And the first things we need to do is we need to set up DevExtreme, of course. And to do that, I'm going to jump into the, first I'm going to go into the angular.json file. And down here under styles, I'm going to say node modules slash devextreme slash dist/css/dx, and today I think we'll use the material theme for today. So I'm going to say dx.material.blue.dark because of course we like the dark themes.
Yeah, that's no surprise here with you having the dark themes.
Yeah. And I'll add that .css there to get rid of that warning. And what we need to do as well is we need to jump into our index.html file, of course, and add the class of dx viewport, just like this. And that just about takes care of that. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to jump in here and remove some extra stuff we won't be needing. So I'll remove this assets folder. Inside the app folder, I'm going to remove the spec file just because I won't be using it today. I'm going to jump into the app.component.html file here. And everything other than this router outlet at the bottom, I'm just going to remove. So I'll clean that up. Also in the app.component.ts file, I'll go ahead and remove that extra title there so we don't get any errors. And if we jump back to our app, we can see just that blank app right now and there's nothing there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to use the Angular CLI first of all to just make a couple of modifications. And I'm just going to open up a terminal here. And I'm going to say ng g for generate, c for component, and I'm going to say components slash, and I'm just going to call this sparkline because I'm going to show the sparkline charts first of all. And I'll just hit enter there. And it'll create that components folder as well as the sparkline component there. And also I'm going to say nggs for service. And I'm going to create a folder called services /sparkline again. So we keep the naming all consistent, of course. And it'll create that service. We can go ahead and close that terminal there. And inside this services, again, I'm going to delete that spec file. And there we go. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into the service here. And what I'm just going to do quickly is just copy and paste some stuff in here.
Yeah, so this is basically going to be the data that is used to generate the chart, right?
Yeah, so I was going to just use some sample data here just because, you know, of course, there's so many ways to get data out, and I didn't want to waste everyone's time by dealing with that. So I just decided to basically just copy and paste some of our sample data here. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom, we can see we have our, you know, injectable here, and we just have some simple get functions here. And also to note, we can see how I have a class here, and I'm using the class as the type here. We could actually change this to an interface, And that actually works just fine as well because I don't have any other class members. However, in our demos, we keep it as a class usually just because it's, more useful, and most of the time there probably will be some kind of members, like some kind of function that converts some data, something like that. As we'll
Yeah.
see later, we have some temperature data, and we might want to have a function that will convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit, that sort of thing. So that's just something important to note, that we can use an interface. It's just really the implementation that will determine what we use.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this sparkline component here. And for this sparkline HTML, I'm just going to go ahead and just start writing some stuff out here. So I'm going to create an H5, and I'm just going to give it a quick style here. A margin of 0.2 EM, 0 pixels, 0.4 EM, and another 0.4 EM. And this is just because we're going to need a little bit of styling there, just so it's not touching the corner of the page. And we're just going to say oil, gold, silver, and platinum prices there. And I'm going to create a table with a class name of demo table. And I'm going to create a table row with a table heading of year. And I can just copy this and paste it a few times. And I'm going to change that to oil, change this one to gold, and this one to silver, and have it as platinum there. And underneath that row, I'll create another one. And I'll just leave this empty for now because we're going to need to modify it a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the sparkline component.ts file here. And at the top, I'm going to import the Angular common module because we're going to be needing that. I'm going to be importing the DX sparkline module and the cost info, as well as the service from the sparkline service there. And down here, I'm just going to say providers is service. And in the imports, we need to add in our imports there. So it's going to be the DX sparkline and the common module there. And here in our class, I'm going to say oil costs is cost info, just like this. And I'm just going to copy and paste it a few times. And this one is going to be gold costs. This one is going to be platinum costs. And this one's going to be silver costs. And below this, we're going to say years. And this is going to be an array of numbers. And below here, what we need to do is create our constructor. And this already, Copilot already got it for me just because I've done it before. And so basically in this constructor, we're going to pass in the service. And we're going to set these member variables up here to the return value of these functions that we created in the service. And for this years, we're just going to create some years just so we can see. And of course, this is some nice old data. And so, yeah, that basically takes care of the TypeScript file right here for us. So I'm going to jump back into our HTML. And in this TR here, what we need to do is we need to use an ng4 here with let year of years, just like this. And we're going to create a heading with a year, just like that. We can create our table data, and in this I'm going to say dx sparkline with a class of sparkline. The data source is going to be oil costs. Just like this. I'm going to give an argument field of month. So it's just going to be showing our data per month because that's how I have it in my sample data there. The value field is going to be year. And hopefully everyone can see that. And the type is going to be bar. So this is just going to be the type of the sparkline. And I'm going to say show min max is going to be true. And I'll open this up. And I'll turn on text wrapping so we can see it.
Yeah, that's a bit easier to read.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying because the the standard Angular way it sort of formats things is just kind of longer lines, and I'm not really a fan of that, but that's just how it is by default. So I didn't really change it too much. But inside here, so inside the DX sparkline, I'm going to say DXO dash tooltip. And the format is going to be currency. Just like that. So if we go back and well, I didn't import it, so obviously it's not going to show up. Shocker, right?
Oh, yeah.
Duh. So in our app.component.ts file, we're just going to import it. So it's just going to be import sparkline component. So components slash sparkline, and this is correct. We'll add it to our imports, and Copilot makes it nice and fast for us. And in our HTML, just so we can see it, I'm just going to say app.sparkline there, just so we can make sure it's working. and
Oh, there it
it is
is.
working. Yeah. It just needs a quick restart just so we get our style sheets working. So I'll go ahead and do that quickly. So I'll just restart that app. I'll let it rebuild. And there we go. So now we see we
Oh,
have our background and font correct. Obviously this isn't correct right now just because we need to add some styling. But for now, we can see it's working and we do have a chart there. So that's sort of correct.
cool. All right, so now you're gonna make it a bit bigger.
Yes, I am. So jumping back into our sparkline here, I am going to um, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste those other parts of it just so I don't have to type it again. And so this is what we just did. So this is the oil cost that we just did. So I just added these other ones. So gold costs, silver costs, and platinum costs. So basically I just did the exact same thing, just 3 more times for those other columns there. So there's a slight change though where we have some different colors just so we can see how it looks with different colors, and we have different line width options and just a bunch of stuff that's part of our API that we can play around with. If you notice here, we have a type of bar here
Oh yeah.
and a type of spline in this one. So this is just 2 different types of sparkline graphs so we can see how it looks. I think the bar looks pretty cool, but the spline is sort of more that traditional line graph look. So
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go into our CSS file, and there's quite a bit of CSS we need to put in here. So in our CSS here, we could see this is in the table itself. I have a width to it, border collapse, and this is a interesting little trick. So in line with the material theme, we want rounded corners, of course, on our table. And the way we can do that is by setting this border style to hidden and then adding a box shadow and the border radius. And that actually gives us rounded corners. Because if we got rid of this line here and we just had like a 1 pixel border or something, it actually wouldn't make it rounded. So just one of those like weird CSS things that we have to deal with. But yeah, we just have some, regular font width, padding, border, all this kind of stuff here. So, I mean, it's all pretty self-explanatory. I mean, everyone that's done CSS pretty much knows all of these things.
Yeah, this doesn't look like rocket science. It's, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, it's a typical CSS, and the border radius trick is a nice to know thing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's kind of a sort of like a little hack there. But if I jump back to our app here, we can see we have this nice table here.
Cool.
Yeah. And
And
so
now
we
we can
have the
actually read
rounded
what's in there.
corners. Yeah. So all of these charts are in here. So like I mentioned before, we have this bar chart here, and we have of course, we have that tooltip that I added where we have all the information showing up there. We have, of course, these tooltips on the other ones as well, and we have the line graphs here. They're slightly different, as you can see. Some of them, obviously, data is different, but we have the different colors there. And this is just a regular table. And
Yeah, that's
also,
actually quite cool.
yeah, and one thing I'll note as well is that we can use spark lines like this and charts within data grids as well. So if you want more functionality, that can be done as well. I just left it relatively simple, um, just because I think it looks really, nice and clean there. And so, yeah. that just about is it for the sparkline chart there.
Yeah, it was a bit of preparation, but the actual projection of the charts was not that difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's just just HTML really. I mean, it's just some
Yeah.
the regular chart stuff, and uh, yeah, I mean, it's relatively simple. Just our one chart there. After you look through the docs and see our different API attributes there, it's relatively simple.
And this
So,
stuff is obviously documented all the way in our documentation
yep,
with
of
all the
course,
settings and bells and whistles.
yep. That's
Cool.
pretty much what I. Whenever we make these streams, I basically just go and review the docs and make sure I've got everything right, and that's how I do it really. Um, yeah, so I am going to go into our app.component.html file here, and I'm just gonna basically set this up properly just before we get going with our other stuff. So I'm just gonna create a div with a class of dashboard. Inside here, I'm going to create another div with a class of table. And I'm going to put that sparkline that we just created in there. And in here, I'm going to say a class of main content, and that naming is pretty bad, but we'll just let it slide for now. And I'm just going to create another div in there with a class of chart. And we're just going to create a few of these. And this one, I'm going to change it to chart-full. And this is basically just where our different charts that I'm going to add to this dashboard are going to live. So I'm just going to add some CSS as well here, just so we don't have to do it later. And so for this, basically, I have that dashboard div, which is just like the main div. And I'm going to be using a CSS grid for this. And so I just have, this standard CSS grid kind of stuff in here with, the rows and columns and all that good stuff. And again, I have these radiuses. I have a border for each of the charts. So the chart is within a border, so it matches the border that we have for the table. And as you can see, we can kind of see it down here where we have these 3 down here and 1 at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, when we put in our charts, it's going to fill it out. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new terminal here. Add a new component. And this one is going to be, call it range. And we'll go ahead and create that. Again, I'm going to create that service. And I'll do that now. And I'll close that. And in our range service, once again, I will just copy and paste that stuff just so we don't have to waste any time. So basically I have, similarly to the other one, I just have the data in there, and at the bottom I'm returning that data. And this is going to be inflation data. So we just have inflation data across 2 years, basically, and we have the month. So basically the idea of this is it's going to be a range. So it's going to be the difference between 2010, and 11. Essentially, that's just sort of the idea behind that range. And we'll see how it looks in a second. So coming in here, in our range.component.ts file here, I'm going to import the common module. It's not going to be the DX range selector, actually. It's going to be the DX chart module. And it's going to be inflation entry and the service from services.range.service, just like that. And it's going to add that service down there. In our imports, of course, we'll add those two imports again. And the inflation data is going to be inflation entry, just like that. The constructor there is correct. So it's going to get that inflation data out for us. And I'm going to create a new function here just before we get into the HTML, just so we don't get any errors later on. And it's going to be customize value axis text. And it's going to take args with an any type. And I'm going to return, and that's correct. So it's going to be args.value text, and I'm going to add a space in there. So basically just going to add this percent symbol to the axis text that's on there. So just going to make it a little bit easier to see and understand. So this is just a simple, easy way we can modify these values. And we'll see in the HTML how we put that in there, which we will add right now. So,
All right.
So for this HTML, I'm just going to start out with DX chart. I'm going to give an ID of chart. And this is not correct. Sorry about that. I'm going to give it a palette of soft for now, and we'll change that so we can see how it looks. And I'm just going to give it a title of inflation rate, and the data source is going to be that inflation data that we created. And I'll save that so it formats it for us. And inside here, I'm going to say DXO dash common dash series dash settings. And the argument field, I'm going to set it to date. The type, so the type of the chart is going to be range area. So this is how we set the chart type. So we have the DX chart. So it includes all the chart types. And we specify the type in this common series settings here.
Yeah, together with the configuration of like the argument and the values, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So then I'm going to say DXI dash value dash axis. I'm going to say tick interval is going to be 0.5. And the value margins enabled is going to be false, and the visual range is going to be, I'm just going to have to put in an object here, so it's going to be start value is 0.5 and the end value is going to be 4. So this is just going to be the it's basically the size of our range. So we don't want to obviously go too much beyond the bounds of our data. So we, just kind of keep it so it's contained within the chart. So we don't have, a small little chart at the bottom of the actual chart, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you obviously know what the max value is.
Yeah, I mean, there's some wiggle room there. I just kind of made it so it's as big as we can make it, just so we can see it as nice on the stream. Obviously, with real data, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Especially if it's changing constantly. If it's just like historical data, then obviously you know what's going to be. Like in this case, we kind of know it's not going to be changing because the data is fixed. But yeah, so now I'm going to add a DxO label. So this is just going to be our label. And I'm going to say customize text. And this is going to be customize value access text.
Oh, that's that method that you created, right?
Yep. And I'm going to actually get rid of this format here because we don't need it. And I'm going to open this up. And I keep typing DX0 for some reason. And it's going to be DxO format. The type is going to be fixed point. And the precision is going to be not 1, but 2. And we'll see what that is in a second. And under this, I'm going to add a DxO argument axis here. And we're going to say value margins enabled is going to be false. And that's it with that. And again, inside here, we need a DxO label. And we can get rid of this so that the type is actually going to be, it's not going to be a type, sorry, it's going to be a format of month. And I will close that tag. And just a small mistake there. I put the wrong name there. So, so we got that set up. We have our argument axis there. And just below this, we're going to add our, and just to, in the name of time, I'm just going to copy it so we don't have to see it again, just because it's kind of annoying. So I'm just added down here this DxO export and the DXO legend, and I just set them one of them enabled to true and the legend to false. So it's pretty simple. And then this DXI series here. So I'm just going to say the field 1 and field 2 values. So if we remember in our data, because we were using a range, we have the 20, 10, and 11 value in each of those objects.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's just basically what we have here. So this is just setting that range value. So it's pretty simple. And it is, of course, just a name. And so if I go back to our app.component.ts file, and I import the range component, and I'll add it to our imports. Here I'm going to say app-range, and if we go back, we can see that chart down there.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And we have this export functionality again. So, if I hit ping file, say, and I do that, and I open it up, we can see that chart that's exported there.
That exporting feature is really cool, and you only need to enable a property, and you're all set.
Yeah, for charts, it's very easy.
Yeah.
All it is just that property, and of course we can print and have all these different file types, and the PDF does work.
Cool.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, what I'm gonna do is, oops, looks like it got mad at me.
Hey, what's that?
That's okay. So what I'm gonna do is just copy
the data components
stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna open up a terminal here. So I'm gonna open up the services, and I'm gonna paste in something and just ignore this. So this is the COPR that I typed in. This is just a small little copy and paste utility I wrote. Anyway, just a cool little thing for the terminal. I'll tell you later about that, Don.
Yeah, I'm getting interested now.
Yeah. Sorry. So basically, I just added this polar.service here. And this is, again, just more data. And I'm just going to add a new component. So component/polar, and this is of course going to be a polar chart. So inside this polar chart, I'm going to try and go pretty quick just because we're kind of running low on time there. So I'll just copy and paste some stuff in here. So it's going to be, and this is giving me a problem. And I have to go back out one more directory there. So this should be correct. And again, this is just, getting our data out. Nothing too complicated, same thing as the other one, really. And for this polar chart, we can do that. And so this polar chart, the data that we're using is going to be London average temperature. And we have the data source, of course. In our series, we have the value field of day, and we have the name, and we have night. So we have two different colors as well. So we'll see how that shows up. And right here, we have this series settings, and the type I set initially as scatter. And I add this comment down here just so we can see the different options and how they look, just so I can remember what they're called. And so if we go back here to our app, we can add the polar component there. Do that, we'll go back to our app component HTML there. We'll add that polar in there, and we can see we have this polar chart now too.
Yeah, that was typical in the same line as the previous one, except with some details being different, obviously. But the chart looks completely different, and
Yeah.
that was because you specified a different kind of chart, obviously.
Yeah, just some slight differences. And again, we have the same export functionality, of course. And if we hover over this day and night, we can see
Yeah,
it
nice.
highlighted.
Yeah,
And we can see, we have this, 5, 10, 15, 20. Of course, this is in Celsius. And, the different months here, and we can see the averages. So our data is nicely represented there. If I jump back here to our polar HTML file, and this now says scatter, I can
Yeah.
change this to say bar, and we can see how it changes there.
Oh yeah.
So just a slight different look. So we can modify all those, and if we say line, we can see we have that line around there now as well. So we have just a lot of different options with really all of our charts, but the polar definitely has some the unique ways of displaying data.
Absolutely.
Usually we don't really think of polar charts as displaying data necessarily. We think of it more, just as a polar chart, really. Going back to a calculus class. But, it's always cool to see different ways of displaying that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Just quickly jumping back into our range. If you remember, we set this palette up here to soft.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to change it to material. And now we can see in this range chart, it's now this blue color.
Oh yeah.
So we can modify the colors like that as well. So the, our bars and whatnot can, the color, we can use our color palettes to change it. Similar to how we have with our pie charts as well. And yeah, so once again, I'm going to go ahead and add another one of these services. And I'm just going to create the file from scratch, probably faster anyway. And it's going to be candle. And this is basically going to be stock price. So that's the idea. And of course we have the low, high, open, and close. And it's going to be a candlestick graph is the idea. So once again, create a component called candle. And we will open that up. Open up the TypeScript file. And paste that in there. And in this file, we have a slight modification here. Again, we have this customized tooltip that takes in an argument, and this will just customize that tooltip value again, just like we did in that previous chart in the thing in here where we have this, values here. So that tooltip will just be customized for us again when we add that chart in here. And it's just going to say, the open, close, and we have line breaks in between. So that's just, simple little template there. And so we can go into the candle HTML file. And if we paste it in there, we can see we have, again, just a DX chart. We modified the some of the internals. So for example, we have, different name, different value fields here. So for example, we have the high value field is H, low value field is L. And that of course corresponds with our naming in our data. So we have the reduction. So the reduction, of course, is just if the value goes down, then the color will be red. Pretty self-explanatory. We have, of course, the type of the series is going to be Candlestick. We have things like our tick intervals, our title. So the text, of course, is going to be dollars. The label format is going to be currency. Work days only is going to be true. So it's only going to show, Monday through Friday, of course. We have the short date format label here, and, all this stuff, again, is just part of our API. We can get rid of some of this stuff. We can add more. It just really, what it takes to get the chart looking how you like, really.
Yeah, that is really impressive, the amount of customization features that you can put in. And I mean, if you check out the properties and things that you can set, it's really, really customizable here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and import that. And it's going to be the candle there. And we'll add that. We'll jump back into our app. It'll be app-candle there, and we can see the candle chart there.
Yep.
So again, it's pretty simple to create like a stock price chart there. So that's really cool. And of course, we have that customized tooltip, so we can see how it says open, close, high, low there on that tooltip. Yeah, and of course we specified red for the reductions. So those are in red, and of course the rest of it just follows our theme, so it's that material blue. And so of course the color here with this blue matches this one. In this case, we specified the blue. I just did it myself to the regular CSS blue, so it looks a little bit darker, but yeah. So it's pretty cool right there.
Yeah,
and again,
and
we have the export.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, so
Nice.
this is very useful for if you want to have, say, I've actually thought about building this for myself, where I would have just a simple web app with basically charts like this for different stock prices, just like that, where I get the data from an API,
Yeah.
and I just have a simple thing, because every time you want to look at some kind of stock price, it's insanely complicated and annoying. And if you just want to see the price, this is much simpler. So yeah, we can make our own custom little stock price app just pretty easily. All it takes is some charts.
Yeah, maybe add some crypto charts as well.
Yeah, anything that comes with a with the data from an API can
Yeah,
you can shove it in a chart really.
yeah, really, really nice.
And so the last thing we're going to do for today is I want to basically add what's called a multi-chart, or sort of a chart with different panes.
Okay.
So we're going to have basically multiple charts inside one sort of master chart, if you will. And that's a really cool way of combining two different ways of visualizing data. And so what we're going to do, again, of course, I need another service. And again, one of those Angular annoyances here. And in that service, I'm just going to call it panes. And paste it in here. So again, we have that weather. And for these, it's just going to be the average, the min, max, and the precipitation. And we're just going to return that data, of course. So that's all it's going to be for now. And then, again, of course, it's going to be in our components folder, and I'm just going to call it panes, just like this. And here we are. And once again, we have to paste some stuff in there. Fix this. And in this case, we again do pretty much the same exact thing. The only difference is we have this extra variable here called value text. And that value text is just for some customization. So for example, we want to add the C here, so Celsius, degrees Celsius here for the temperature text.
Yep.
And precipitation text, we want to add just millimeters. So this is just going to be basically a easy way that we can modify the text, so we can do it, have different text for those different charts within our main chart, if that makes sense. And of course, we're just getting the weather here. So it's relatively simple. And just for TypeScript, we have to add this or undefined type because we're not initializing the data. Just one of those TypeScript things. Of course, the text will always be initialized as long as we have data. If we don't have data, then there's a bigger problem. So in this panes here, what I'm going to do is just paste this over. And we can see, of course, we have our chart, we have our series, and of course we have the pane here, which is top pane.
Oh, yeah.
And we have another one that's bottom pane as well.
Yeah.
So this essentially will give us the all the stuff we need. So for example, here we have a bar chart for the precipitation. And for the top pane here, it's going to be a range area chart. So two different types of charts. So basically what we're going to have is the temperature in one chart and the precipitation in another one. So basically we separate that data out. However, it's still very much related data. So we want to have it sort of in the same main DX chart here, even though we have those separate panes. Hopefully that makes sense. It'll be a lot clearer once we see what it looks like.
Yeah, and this is obviously because you specify several series, and you specify different pane names, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just add that there. We can finally add that app dash panes there, and we can see what that looks like there.
Oh yeah, hey, that is quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a very cool chart here. So this is again weather where we are right now in Glendale, and yeah, so we could basically see the amount of rain at the bottom here, and this is the average temperatures at the top.
Yeah.
So that's very cool, and this is actually, I believe this is accurate for whatever year this was.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, you can kind of see.
Yeah, this makes sense to put it like a one chart as well because you want to see like the temperature together with the amount of water going down, basically.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, or I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if it's accurate. I mean, it's a bit too cold, honestly, for like for July, 22.2. It'd be
Yeah, and now you're mentioning
closer
it.
to
Yeah.
30. Yeah, I believe in Celsius world.
Yeah, this is a bit. I would say. I mean, I'm obviously in Celsius. The whole Fahrenheit thing. I don't get it,
Yeah,
but it looks a bit chilly for July in Glendale. Yeah.
yeah,
But anyway, I mean, the whole idea behind the chart being able to display two different kind of charts into one is, yeah, a really cool feature to use. And obviously, when you export this one, like to a PNG, it will contain both series, basically, I guess.
I'll make sure it downloads it. And
Oh yeah, of
yeah,
course, there it
so
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can
cool.
definitely see it. Yeah, so it's very cool, very easy to use. Um, yeah, really the whole point of this demo. So last week I showed how we can use our BI dashboard,
Yeah,
and the BI dashboard is really cool, and obviously it has a lot more functionality than this. However, this is a really cool way to more or less create a dashboard for us with just some charting options. And obviously, our data here is somewhat disjointed, but if we had, if we were using one of those databases that I've promised I wouldn't use, such as the Northwind database, of course, we can have all of that data in here and have it a little bit more logical. But
yeah,
this is pretty cool. And again, we have all of our data here. And if we hover, again, we get the tooltips and all that good stuff. And again, we have this range. So just to note, we have the average as well as the high and low.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
in
yeah,
that range there. So that's just another cool little chart option there. So it's not just a regular line chart, a little bit more visualization there.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah, really impressive.
um, if there aren't any questions, then I think that just about wraps it up for today.
Yeah, well, I don't have any questions for you from the people watching. So, yeah, I think this was a very nice demo, and it shows again how powerful the DevExtreme controls are. Yeah, thank you for giving us this nice demo. For next week, we'll be back. On Tuesday, it will be me with Amanda. Hopefully, my voice will be completely back to normal. We'll be doing some Blazor stuff. And on Wednesday, you're back, Gregory, with me.
Yep.
Cool. And we'll be showing some other cool dev extreme stuff. So thank you for watching, and hopefully till next week. Thank you.